because it's the silly, stupid, fascinating, weird, wonderful. They're my people, and more often than not, they're the geeky people as well.
But this real sense that what you do as you emerge out of Middle Earth in your real life is you hope, because Tolkien's so good at capturing that.
I mentioned Betamax. For anybody older, that's the old version of a video cassette. A video cassette is an old version of a DVD. A DVD is not set in the cloud.
And I said, I'm not happy, I've got bits wrong here. And she said, yeah, but that's all part of the learning process. That's all part of that makes it unique to you, that those kind of imperfections within it.
Hiya! Welcome to the fizzy can of live streams and podcasts. The little treat on the side, sometimes at the back of the fridge, and you look forward to it, and sometimes it gets shaken up, sometimes you have to leave it a moment, other times it offers refreshment and a nice opportunity. And so this is another episode of Faith Geekery. My name is Mark, and this is...
I am Jen.
Hello, Jen. How are you this evening?
I am good, thank you. I am really good. Yeah, I love the analogy of shaking the can up because I feel like that's often what happens for us. Often we may start trying to be sensible with the can, and then by the end, we have shook it up. How are you, Mark? How are you doing?
I'm all right. It's interesting that I didn't choose that purposefully to tell you this story, but in this household, I often have compared kind of family dynamics and siblings to shaking each other's can up.
Very true.
And so we've got to be really careful of unnecessarily shaking up each other's cans.
Treating those cans carefully.
I used it once and the kids continue to refer back to it, so I feel as if that's a win.
Really, that's really awesome. I never have done the thing where you shake one can up and you put it in amongst the cans and you just wait to see can shaken roulette, who gets it. I've never done that.
I feel as if you've said that, as if you have actually done that.
No, never.
I'm going to check my cans in future.
Always check your cans.
Yeah, Jen, what have you been up to? Have you been up to anything exciting? I guess we should ask the same question that we ask every week, which is, what geekiness have you been up to since we last gathered?
I was talking about an ordination gift for somebody getting ordained, and then I went to the ordination, which I think is probably it's peak Church of England geekiness. Like, it doesn't get more geeky than that. It's absolute peak Church of England geekiness. That's not necessarily a geekiness that I'm chasing. So the geekiness that I'm doing, which I'm...
So I was about to say, it's sometimes unintentionally geeky rather than kind of heartfelt hobby, interest, passion. Yeah. It's kind of more you sidled into it.
I think it's that old school geeky rather than, new cool geeky. So instead, I am carrying on with my sock that I started when we were doing our and that's how long it is now.
That is
progress. Definite progress. Yeah. How about you? What have you been up to?
I had a filling yesterday at the dentist, which is hideous, but also getting ready to move towards the end of the month. So not as much as that as what I was hoped for, but kind of getting there, or rather we will when we get there. We will get there when we get there, if that is not too much of a strange saying.
Would you ever geek out over organising packing materials? Would you ever geek out over like boxes that things go in?
I'm a bit of a fan of the tape gun and kind of the allocation of what writing what and where. We seem to have lost Jen for some reason, but I'll continue to talk about my geekiness of kind of, that enjoying, order and arranging and things like that. I wonder if Jen is going to join us in a moment. Here she is. I didn't know if it was something I said there, Jen.
The tape gun just saw me off.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I was just saying about kind of order and kind of, just kind of getting things set up.
Yeah.
In that sort
I
of
like
thing.
the idea of a spreadsheet that correlates to a chart and a map that has boxes and labels and a label gun. Like there is, I think this is the part. I don't think I'd ever do it, but there's a part of me that's like, oh yeah.
Well, it's
I'd
like the
enjoy
whole
that.
kind of producty sort of side of geekiness, isn't it? And kind of subgenres and themes.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm not that bothered about a spreadsheet necessarily, because I think in my mind I kind of go that box is there, and I'm sure I will forget about it, but I know that box needs to go in that room, and I like to do a label of stuff. The problem is, gone.
How could you not be bothered about a spreadsheet? Spreadsheets are
Because
joy of their life.
Because it's another layer of admin which I don't actually have time for in
That's
life.
true. That's true.
The only thing I do have time for is what I tend to do. I'm sure other bags are available, but go to IKEA, buy the fridge, like the freezer bags.
Yes.
And put all your nuts and bolts of individual piece of furniture
as you're taking it down
into each bag, label it, and put it in a toolbox that goes with you in your car.
Yes.
Rather than trying to, we've tried other things in the past of like taping bags of things
to the stuff,
and it just you
not
don't always come out at the other end.
No.
So yes, I'm looking forward. Well, not looking forward to that, but it's just one of those things that has to happen. Again, it's that sidling into that kind of area of geekiness.
Yeah.
So, folks, if there's any geekiness that you want to share about, please don't be a stranger. Put it on as a comment wherever you're watching from. We are trying out our new Facebook page. We have finally got through the 60-day cooling period. 60 days. I don't know why it had to be that. As well as 100 likes or followers. We well and truly passed that within the first week, which was brilliant, but we had to wait 60 days. So welcome, and I hope you've all found us okay in that place. So yeah, other than that, I think we're just pottering on. We've got a few things on tonight. We are doing the Great REruns, which we're going to come into in a little while, and before that, should we go into some geeky news?
Definitely.
This is the Faith and Geekery news, broadcast to your home and around the world.
So tonight, I always am aware that I kind of go a bit entertainment heavy, and it's not that kind of I go out my way to do that. It just kind of naturally happens, and I don't know why. First of all, I would like to mention that Jurassic World Rebirth premieres tomorrow. That's the 2nd of July, and this is the 7th film in the Jurassic World franchise, and hopefully still going strong. But what I want to share tonight is something I think which is actually quite geeky, is that Jonathan Bailey plays the Doctor, as in a Doctor, not the Doctor, obviously. He plays the kind of bespectacled Doctor in the this birth of it. But at the point of which he reaches out and kind of meets a dinosaur, spoiler, it includes dinosaurs.
There are dinosaurs in it.
He was allowed, first of all, because he's also a musician, he was able to play his instrument. First of all, he went and sat down with the kind of orchestra and was allowed to be part of it.
That's so cool.
And then they asked him to do the solo at the point of where his character is able to reach out. So at that moment, it's the kind of the cool. Jurassic Parkiness. He is actually playing that on his.
That's him.
Clarinet, oboe,
clarinet. Good, like a clarinet. Is that an oboe next to it?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. So
whatever it is. He's obviously having a good time.
Answers on a postcard. Yes, I don't know whether it's been mentioned before. I think Tim may have mentioned it. Spider Noir, that's coming out next year, which is a Nicolas Cage as Spider-Man, kind of a cartoonified sort of feature.
He was in the Spider-Verse films.
So I think that might be a continuation
as a character.
Of that sort of thing.
He's like one of the iterations of Spider-Man. Yeah.
Yeah. Then there is I've seen the trailer at least twice today without even intending to watch it. But basically, it's Project Hail Mary, where Ryan Gosling stars as like a as a teacher who is needing to go into space because he's got a specialized subject or something, and he has to go into status, and it's these that, like, how extreme can we go from one thing to another?
Well, it does also sound like a bit of sort of fan fiction there, doesn't it? Like written by a teacher daydreaming about what might happen in their life.
I think the only problem is that whilst I do appreciate Ryan Gosling, I've never really got beyond the fact that he is still just Ryan Gosling. That there are some actors where I kind of go, gosh, they're acting to take it to such a level that I stopped seeing them as a celebrity. Whereas Ryan Gosling always continues to be the same sort of person. This is Ryan
Gosling in space.
Yeah. And so that's no mean to be horrible towards him, because obviously we would hate to lose him as a viewer and a fan of the show. Don't think that happens. But he just seems to always portray the same sort of thing, and I think that happens an awful lot. So, like, I think Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson, for example, never really kind of acts a different person. He is just Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson in yet another film.
In another film. I think it's they don't necessarily have range, but they do have talent, as long as the role that they're doing. But I'd go watch Ryan do Shakespeare. You could give it a go. Like, I'd watch that.
I mean, to be honest, genuinely, I am interested in this one. But again, I'm just like they're going, but it is just going to be Ryan Gosling in space with added trope.
What's his specialist subject? Like, what is it that they need in space that only he can provide?
Idea.
Like, what is it that he thinks?
I've no idea. Genuinely no idea.
That's what it sounds like. Somebody's like a fan kind of fiction thing where you spent years investing in your PhD and you feel like it's worthless. And you need to find some
Armageddon.
purpose.
It feels like Armageddon of where they kind of go, oh, how can we get Bruce Willis and some burly, kind of burly diggers, miners, whatever, drilling experts, rather than going, we could ask these kind of specialist men, or we could get astronauts to do it, scientists, and just kind of give them extra explosives. Anyway, carrying on. The Old Guard 2 is coming out tomorrow as well, which stars Uma Thurman in this sequel. Because of this, I actually watched the first one yesterday.
Is it good?
So it was all right. It was okay. A bit of, I want to call it popcorn fodder. It's there on the screen.
This is Kill Bill that she's doing. So, what is there a crossover? Is it?
No. It's all about kind of these kind of people who suddenly find themselves to be immortal, and they kind of come back to life. But as they get older, they regenerate slower and slower. And so the first one was Charlize Theron, and I think this is actually completely just the Old Guard 2, and it just so happens to be Uma Thurman striking a Kill Bill pose.
Is that intentional? Have they done that on purpose, or is that they've just
I think it's a case of kind of going, look, we've got Uma Thurman and she's wielding a sword just like Kill Bill. It's got nothing to do with it.
You remember her, right?
Yeah.
Fair dues.
Tim has been in touch saying Old Guard equals Expendables with less testosterone.
I like it.
I think there's a slight more of a story than Expendables. But
Expendables has creepy levels of age gap between the main characters and then the characters that they end up kissing on screen. Like creepy levels of age gap.
Well, it does feel as if Expendables is pretty much kind of. No, I don't want to say this really offensively. How was best to say this? It feels like some sort of pension plan for old action heroes.
Yeah, it is.
Is that, or rather, just in the way that kind of Murder, She Wrote. What's the lady from that? That she kind of offered opportunities for older actors to still kind of partake in their profession.
Yeah, Angela Lansbury.
That's it. Thank you.
She
actively was looking after folks, because if they were able to be performing, then they were allowed to be part of the union, which therefore meant that their health was covered.
Yeah, no, process. I think that's fab. I think, like, I saw Sigourney Weaver be Prospero, and she was, amazing, especially as an older actress. But brilliant. Just don't think he's somebody who's young enough to be your granddaughter.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, you can kind of get away with daughter level age gap, maybe, but like.
But for the record, I've got no problem with older actors or even older actor action heroes. I think it just feels as if there's an awful lot of the same caliber of like that kind of 80s, 90s action hero.
Yeah.
Still doing the same. Again, it comes down to range, doesn't it? Still doing the same thing.
That's true.
But 30, 40 years later, where you're kind of going, you don't have to do that.
Try something else.
Let's add St. Angela to the list alongside St. Pedro.
Yeah, definitely. I love her so much.
We should mention Discord, that we have a Discord community if you want to share things. If, for example, if anybody wants to draw like a St. Angela and St. Pedro
yes, please.
Stained glass window effect.
Can Angela please be Mrs. Potts rather than her? I think that would be the most.
Yes, dear.
And please, before we move on from this screen, we can't move on from Jonathan Bailey without talking about his slutty little glasses. Like that is
slutty little glasses.
Little glasses.
I did not think that would appear on Faith and Geekery. Is that
there's a whole club. I've not made this up.
Oh,
okay, I am appreciating it deeply.
That's helpful to know.
Yeah, if you hashtag it, you'll see that there's a whole club out there, and it comes from an influencer who is amazing, and we all are appreciating greatly all of them. I just you can't talk. It's like the elephant in the room. It's like the glasses wearing elephant.
Fair enough. I should mention, I've not even got on here that Superman's coming out. Talking of glasses, obviously that's going to come out.
And important
there's
things.
been a promo today where there is, like in London at the Shard, there's actually like a profile of Superman as if floating kind of in between. So that looks quite cool promotion.
That's very cool.
So obviously that comes out very shortly too. And then we've got a few other little random bits. I mentioned in the Discord, so I didn't know whether we'd mentioned it on the show or not, but obviously Spaceballs 2 has been kind of commissioned, will be coming out in 2027. We've got The Running Man, which, again, talking about 19 action heroes and remakes thereof, I'm a little bit wary of this, and I don't know if it's because I am a little bit wary of this because of like another Schwarzenegger classic of Total Recall done by Colin Farrell, is it? And that wasn't good, and so I'm just a little bit hesitant about this. Is there's certain caliber or there are certain films where it feels as if the what's the word, the studio is just purely putting one of the films out so they can retain the rights of it, rather than actually having a passion and actually having belief in their franchise. And so, but it is the chappie from Twisters. I've forgotten the guy's name, and I did have it written down.
How does it work? Because I know that books go into the public domain after a certain number of years. Like, how does copyright, like, how does it work with films? Do they retain it? Do they have like a contract to retain it for a certain number of years? Like, is it that kind of vibe?
I think the media stuff I don't know, but I think books and things and comics have about 100 and something years.
It's 100 years, isn't it?
Because that's why we have Winnie the Pooh and the original thingy about Willy, Mickey kind of is
it's just it's just copyright free. Interesting, but it'd be good to know.
Yeah, but I think it's basically down to the individual contracts of how studios have kind of got them and otherwise, and after how long do they revert back to? I think there was something else in the news earlier on today where something has reverted back because Warner Brothers didn't use it. I forgot what it is. Anyway, just a couple of other things. Yeah, Naked Gun, and again, I'm not going to go in. Leslie Nielsen was not Leslie Nielsen. The original chappie. Leslie, is it Leslie Nielsen? Leslie Nielsen, yes, was really good as the original, but Liam Neeson is, I don't know. I've seen the Yeah, I'm not fully sure, but then I did quite like this
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 is
poster.
funny.
So
Yeah.
for those on the podcast, it says no AI was used in the maker of this poster, and it says Liam Neeson, The Naked Gun, only in theatres August 1st. But there is a picture of him holding a pistol, and he has at least 7 fingers,
And a thumb.
and
Or 2
one
thumbs.
thumb. Oh, yeah, maybe 6 fingers and 2 thumbs, all around the gun. So it is completely ridiculous, but I quite like that. They're going, you
It's
know what?
funny.
That's quite funny. That is
Yeah.
quite funny. And the
Yeah.
last thing to mention is that there is they are releasing on Minecraft Bedrock Beta the opportunity to make things out of copper, which for anybody who's interested in Minecraft, that's quite interesting. And they're also making a chest out of copper as well.
Ooh.
So I think that is the end of Geeky News. Ciao.
Nice.
I feel as if we've talked quite into that, but is there anything else that we want to talk about that, folks? If you want in the comments or otherwise, I assume I was waiting as if someone was going to respond immediately there. Come on. If you want to do that, Jen, is there anything else to mention on that, or shall we move on?
Not that I can think of. I was thinking about them still filming The Chosen and doing the crucifixion this past week, and on the medias, on socials, they've not. The actor who plays Jesus, he is just not being seen. So that you've seen other behind the scenes shots of other actors, but you've not seen Jesus. And I think maybe that's pretty intentional. Maybe
have they actually crucified him? Is that...
Maybe they did then get to see the Pope. So it was either a robot or no, they haven't actually crucified him.
Wow, he got to see the Pope just because he starred in. Oh, that's pretty. I mean, I guess
they
it is
all
quite
did.
interested. Oh, that's cool.
Yeah. I think he's a fan.
Cool.
Yeah.
The Pope is, or
the Pope is, yeah. Because Jonathan Rumi, who plays Jesus, is a Roman Catholic, and he's quite high profile because he's Jesus. It's pretty high profile.
I mean, be more like Jesus.
Be more like Jesus. Exactly.
That's very cool. I believe we have the quiz coming up, but yeah, it's a little bit different this week, isn't it?
I'm reading the quiz this week.
That's very cool.
Right? That's right. That's
yeah. That was
a blank case
about it, but you were just like,
no, only in as much as I've never done this before, so I'll try my best.
It's
I'm try my
over
best
to you as we're going to play the music and we're going to go over to the quiz.
I got questions. The quiz.
I want to do Tim proud. I want to do the team proud. I'm going to do really well reading the questions and not read the answers. I don't think I've got the answers in the same sheet, Tim.
I was going to say, please say that you got the answers.
The answers will be somewhere. Okay, are you ready? Hi, friends. Shall I try and do a Tim impression?
No, just do it your way.
Are you sure? Because I've been practicing. Okay.
Okay.
Currently,
whatever way you want to do it.
Okay. I'm currently in the tropical landscape of Sheffield, but missing you all. Below is the topical quiz for today. Usual rules apply, as always, and to ensure that no one from the core team is tempted to cheat on this quiz, the answers are on a separate... Tim's saying that I've already made him proud. Thank you. Thanks.
Have you got the document though?
I will do. It will be there.
Good.
I'm sure it will be. The answers are on a separate document. There are 5 questions, as always, and we'll go through the points on the answer sheet. Enjoy. Okay, you ready? I'm also going to try and do it at the same time as ask the questions. Okay. Question number 1. Which of the following songs was simultaneously number 1 on the US and UK singles chart for the longest length of time? And it's a multiple choice. Are you ready?
Mm-hmm.
I Want to Dance with Somebody by Whitney Houston. Everything I Do It For You, Bryan Adams. Shape of You, Ed Sheeran. Or WAP by Cardi B featuring Megan Thee Stallion. Shall I read it again? One more time?
Yes.
Which of the following songs were simultaneously number 1 on the US and UK singles chart for the longest length of time? I Want to Dance with Somebody by Whitney Houston. Everything I Do It For You by Bryan Adams. Shape of You, Ed Sheeran, or WAP by Cardi B featuring Megan Thee Stallion? What do we reckon?
I think I know which one I would go for, but I remember one of these more than the other. I just don't know whether it's been succeeded in recent years.
Yeah, okay.
Because my modern
musical knowledge might not be necessarily
is awful. No.
As good as, and to be fair, music did kind of peak in the 1990s, so that's understandable.
In the late 1900s.
Question number 2. Which of the following movies earned the most on their theatrical re-release in their first week? So was it Star Wars, Revenge of the Sith, 20th anniversary, Titanic, 25th anniversary, Avatar, 2022 re-release, or Jurassic Park, 30th anniversary? So which of the following movies earned the most on their theatrical re-release in their first week? Was it Star Wars, Revenge of the Sith, 20th anniversary, Titanic, 25th anniversary, Avatar, 2022 release, or Jurassic Park, 30th anniversary?
Ooh.
I
think I know which one I would go for, but I am aware. I just don't want to kind of, lead the conversation. So I might talk about it during
afterwards.
The answer bit.
Okay, yeah, that's a good point. I am, however, comfortable saying now how uncomfortable it makes me that these films are that old. that is, I'm not okay with any of that. Okay, question number 3. Right, like it's just they can't be, because 2000 was a couple of years ago. Question number 3. On this day in 1903, and today is the
1st of July.
1st of July, thank you. On this day in 1903, what sporting event had its first ever race? Was it the Grand National, the Tour de France, Paris Dakar race? Is that how you say it? Dakar?
No,
Dakar race.
Dakar.
Or the Cows Week Regatta. Let me read it again for you. On this day in 1903, what sporting event had its first ever race? Was it the Grand National, the Tour de France, the Paris Dakar race, or Cows Week Regatta? Cows as in COWES.
As in, yes.
The
White?
Place, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think so.
I think it's Isle of Wight.
Huh? Okay. Happy to move on to question 4?
Yes.
Okay, question 4. Which Magic the Gathering card has
no idea. Sorry.
Yeah.
It's a whole genre of Faith and Geekery. I know nothing about it. And I nod and I smile and I have no idea. Carry on, keep going. I'll shut up.
Do you know who would know? Tim would know if he was here. Which Magic the Gathering card has the most reprints? Reprints include new art, etc.
Is it multiple choice?
It is. You'll be glad to hear. Is it Evolving Wilds, Sol Ring, Counterspell, or Swords to Plowshares? I've got questions. Are those actually all Magic the Gathering cards, or has Tim made some of those up? Like, I want to know that.
What was the second one again?
Okay, I'm going to read it again. Which Magic the Gathering card has the most reprints, including new art? Evolving Wilds, Sol Ring, Counterspell, or Swords to Plowshares? So Sol is like the Spanish word for sun. It's like SOL.
Oh, Sol Ring. I thought you were saying Soul Ring.
Sol.
Okay.
Sol.
I'm going for a stab in the dark, but not literally. Because all of it is a stab in the dark, in my view.
Okay. Oh my gosh, I've just seen the next question. Tim is a legend. Okay, are you ready? Question number 5. Who said that? Match the quote to a F&G, Faith and Geekery core team member. Are you ready?
Oh, good.
Quote number 1. Because it's the silly, stupid, facilitating, weird, wonderful. They are my people. Who said it? Because it's the silly, stupid, facilitating.
that's to choose between Jen, Tim, me, or Becca, isn't it?
Yeah.
Just so we're clear
Yeah.
for folks.
And there are 4 quotes.
I don't really feel as if we are mainstream enough to feature in a quiz, let alone our own quiz.
Well, clearly we are, Mark. Clearly this is the level that we've now reached. Just lean into it. Lean into it.
Okay.
So the first quote is, and it's going to be either me, Mark, Becca, or Tim, because it's the silly, stupid, facilitating, weird, wonderful. They are my people.
Mm-hmm.
Quote number 1. Quote number 2. I should have read this before. Okay. Quote number 2. Capitalism is rife with monkeys. Capitalism. Who said this? Capitalism is rife with monkeys. Okay.
Okay, keep going.
Okay. The next quote. People have been very quiet on the comments. I'm not sure if it's because we've scared them off by showing their potential comments. I'm going to read it again. People have been very quiet on the comments. I'm not sure if it's because we've scared them off by showing their potential comments.
Like this. We have.
Okay, are we ready for the...
Yes, keep going.
Are we ready for the last one?
Uh-huh.
She looks pretty, though, frozen. At least frozen in a pretty face. I'm going to say it one last time. She looks pretty, though, frozen. At least frozen in a pretty face.
That sounds very obscure.
I know. Okay, I found
Tim's
the answer.
I'm not scared. Oh, yeah. Just show up on the little
too.
screen down there as well.
Yeah. Not scared for the potential comments. Okay, are we ready for the answers?
I am ready for
Are we ready?
I
was ready for something. Do you want to talk about each question before we answer it, or do you want to?
No,
Okay,
just go for it.
Okay, so question
I'll answer
number
on the back of
1.
it.
1 point for the correct answer,
Mhm.
which was Shape of You, Ed Sheeran, spent 11 weeks at number 1 in both the US and UK. Everything I Do It For You spent a total of 7 weeks, and I Want to Dance With Somebody and WAP were both at 2 weeks. So if you said Ed Sheeran, then you were right, but also at what cost to the world that's true. You know what I mean?
You see, in my mind, I was just thinking about Everything I Do It For You because I thought it was
I did that.
I thought it was really long, but I think it may have been Wet, Wet, Wet. I see it in the fingers. I see it. That one.
I see it in the fingers.
No, you know what I mean. I hear it in my toes. No, it's not right, is it? Feel it in my toes.
Keep going. You're almost there. Yeah, it
Love
wasn't
Is All
that,
Around
though.
Us.
Yes,
But
it was from Robin Hood, but that's
Yeah.
why I thought that was going to be the one because
Oh yeah,
it's
because it's
longer in the UK
overlapping.
chart.
Yeah.
Ah, fair dues.
And
Fair
again,
dues. That makes sense.
Not a big fan of Ed Sheeran, so
Yeah, no, I am actively an anti-fan of Ed Sheeran, which I know many people might come for me for that, but I'm allergic to him. That's how it feels. I come out in a rash. So I'm very disappointed that's the answer. Very disappointed. Question number 2, 1 point for the correct answer. And what did you say, Mark?
Jurassic Park.
Yeah, I said Jurassic Park. However, the correct answer is Star Wars: The Revenge of the Sith 20th anniversary, and 25.5 million in its first week,
Wow.
which is bonkers. Titanic holds the highest earnings for a re-released film in 3D. That's very interesting, isn't it?
It's a very niche genre, though, isn't it?
A re-release. How
of
well
a
they
3D
do.
and a 3D version.
Yeah.
But I
that's
was aware.
true.
I didn't know where it was going with the whole Avatar thing because I know that was a big race, wasn't it, between was it Endgame, Avengers Endgame, and Avatar, and therefore Avengers Endgame kind of broke the £1 billion mark the quickest or something like that, and then it was kind of what's his face kind of bringing out Avatar to push that above the 1 billion, and so I had that in the back of my mind that there was a real kind of vibe around Avatar.
Oh, okay.
There you go. Avatar was released just to edge ahead of Avengers Endgame.
There you go.
I was aware of that kind of stuff going on in the background. But yeah.
Ticking on.
But okay. So no points so far.
Nil point. Question number 3, 1 point for the correct answer. And the correct answer is the Tour de France. It first started in this day in 1903. Did you get that one?
I did.
Well done.
I was aware of I was aware of the game, which had a very kind of turn of the century look to it. And again, I was also just thinking about when was the Tour de France? When was cycling the most popular?
Yes.
And I think if you go any earlier, then you'd be like penny farthings and things like that.
Gotcha.
So I was kind of assuming it was that sort of time.
Around
How
that
about
era.
yourself?
Well,
did you go for that? Or?
I did not go for that. I went for cows because I thought maybe we were doing a little thing for Lydia, even though it's spelled differently. But anyway, I'm sticking with mine. Okay, are we ready for question number 4? 1 point for the correct answer. What did you put?
Counterspell, because I thought that was like a mechanic thing rather than other things, assuming it has some sort of parallel with D&D, but it might not.
No, well, it might, but it doesn't. Sol Ring has had 102 reprints across all Magic the Gathering sets. This is mainly new artwork themed for the set it is released in. So that's one popular.
I don't know Magic the Gathering, so is that just kind of because it kind of goes across lots of styles? Is it a key mechanic within the game?
Exactly. Like, is it one of those that you need for every round, or these are questions to ask him? Yeah, yes. We'll ask them. Okay. Question number. So far, I have nil point. Question number 5, 1 point per correct answer, so 4 in total possible points. 1 smartass point is if someone answered the person reading out the questions. Does that make sense? I can't.
Is that for you?
Maybe that's me. For me, and I shouldn't have read that out. Okay. That I just get an extra point, which I think maybe needs to be a rule in every single one of the quizzes. So I'm okay with that. Okay. So the first quote was, because it's the silly, stupid, facilitating, weird, wonderful, they are my people.
Is that Becca?
It's Becca, and she says it in the opening credits of every episode.
And that's why I knew it.
That's how you knew it. And it's surprising maybe that like maybe you didn't know that, but even though you listen to it really regularly. Okay. Capitalism is rife with monkeys. I feel like that's such a brilliant quote. Is Tim? Yeah. Tim said it last week when we started talking about monkeys. No other context. We were just talking about monkeys. Straight to capitalism. Okay. People have been very quiet on the comments. I'm not sure if it's because we've scared them off by showing their potential comments. Mark said this in episode 17 when we introduced a live comments box for the live stream. We've never done this again unless Mark added it for this episode. Then we've done it twice.
I did it a second time when someone kind of went, "Oh, why is my screen gone a little bit funny?" It might have actually been before we broadcast. There was a bit of a query of why is my screen going weird, and I was like, "Oh no, that's the little box at the bottom."
That's brilliant.
Yes. And so is the last one you by any chance?
The last one is me, and I said it about Becca appearing in episode 16 with some technical issue. She does have a pretty face, frozen or otherwise. But she froze in a very pretty face. It was like a sort of semi-angelic kind of face. So I got 4 because I knew who said those things, and I got all of the rest wrong.
I got 5 in total, but mainly because I knew who said what. The last one, there was a process of elimination because I couldn't quite work out. But I had thought frozen as in ice frozen. I hadn't considered it was and that's why I was a bit like, I don't get this. I've removed the comments off the bottom of the picture now, just in case if that comes up during another episode.
Another quiz.
A bit meta. Shall we move on? Because time is getting away from us, actually. And it is about the Great REruns. What's that? Tim, saying, are you opposed to a process of elimination? ? No, not at all. I was just trying to work out. Oh, Tim has also written, he will remember this, as in he will, not I will. Yeah.
In fact, I actively encourage it to him because then I'm more likely to actually get points. So,
absolutely.
This is a positive. Yeah.
I know the thing for me was I was trying to work out whether it was going to be a trick question and it was going to be a duplicate of one of the core team and not you. And I was like, that'll be a bit harsh, but I wouldn't put it past him. So I also remembered him. So yes, we are talking about reruns and rewatching. Shall I start with this and shall I see where we go with this, Jen?
Yeah.
So basically the group was where we were kind of talking about kind of themes and otherwise, and this is kind of the start of our series. So we've been going through a bit of a series. You can tell we're kind of a faith background. We love a good series of stuff, and what's the word when it all begins with the same things. So this is the reruns about the kind of the programs that we return back to as a stabilizing force or something that is kind of, dare I say, brings us comfort. We might dive into that in a little bit later, but it's kind of exploring the sort of that way in which we can kind of return back to things, and it provides things for us. But first of all, do we do this? I think both of us do this. Is there a favourite there, Jen, or is there favourites?
Yeah, definitely. I do. Like, I've experienced it quite recently because when you have something that maybe either you've been binging and it's a really long show, so you can binge it for ages, or you've been binging in as much as you have to wait for it to be released each time, and you're waiting for that evening when it gets dropped. So The Last of Us has been what I've been, and you get to the end of something, either the complete end of something or the end of as much as you can access right now, and you're like heartbroken. You're devastated by the ending of this thing, that these characters have become like family to you and you love them, and all of a sudden they've gone again, and you can't just dive, maybe you do dive straight back in and that's your rerun. But if you can't do that, you need like a kind of palate cleanser that goes in between that and then having the emotional energy to invest in something new. Like, you need that buffer in the middle that isn't going to cost anything from you. That sense of like, oh no, I know who I am in this. I know what's going to happen. I know who they are. And I know that I'm 100% safe and comfortable in this, media space. And I do it with books as well. It's not just TVs or films. Like, I do it with other media too. I do it with, with books and other, other things as well. So if I have like a go-to, was that the question? I've already forgotten.
Yeah. I think it was just like, what is on your list of kind of returns?
So I do The Office, The American Office. Mm-hmm. I do, this isn't a swear word, but it sounds like a swear word, Schitt's Creek. It's spelled differently, but you can't tell that when I say it out loud. I do, I think I probably... added Ted Lasso to that list now. That's been a couple of times. And then I'll do things like I'll watch like back to back all of the Marvel films, like I'll go through that kind of, I'll watch all the Marvel or the Mandalorian. Like it's ones that I've seen many, many times. Or if it was books, I go back to books I read when I was, much younger. So when I was a teenager. So I do like, Elizabeth Gaskell or Jane Austen or those sorts of books. North and South I've read a million times. Bleak House I've read a lot. That's Dickens. Yeah. What about you?
It's interesting because as I started thinking about this, it depends on the season and on what I've kind of gone through. So COVID was a time when we rewatched Friends. First time that was the first time we properly rewatched it after Channel 4 used to regurgitate them on, is it like a Friday or whatever, a 6 o'clock time slot.
Yeah.
So that was intentionally going back to Friends, and boy, they dated. But
gosh, yes, they really have.
Also, How I Met Your Mother as well was during COVID, and I've forgotten there was another one that was during COVID, and it was just interesting that I haven't watched it previously to that, as on a repeat, and I haven't watched it since. But it was just that familiarity during quite an intense world
tough
time,
time.
that it was kind of quite helpful to have something normal or something that with a different association to it, of better times. But then there's also kind of seasonal things that I watch. So we watch kind of Die Hard at Christmas time. I know there's going to be people going, "Oh, it's not a Christmas movie. It's a Christmas movie."
Yeah, they're wrong. It is a Christmas movie.
And so there's those sort of things, and so kind of make my way through kind of all the Die Hards. Not always all the Die Hards, but definitely the first couple.
Do you watch the one where he kills a car with a helicopter? Do you watch that one? Because that's
4.0. Is
that's
a little
stretch.
It's a bit enough, but there is always a little bit of a silly moment. But unfortunately, in 4.0, there does seem to be about 3 or 4 of those. But I do kind of feel that it does return to form with the 5th film.
With the 5th one. So those moments are interesting, aren't they? Because I think some people might refer to those as the fridge moment, right? And that is from Indiana Jones, where he survives a nuclear bomb by hiding in a fridge. And it's that sense of, this is so bizarre or funny or weird, or it's just so out of kind of fitting with the rest of the film that it takes you straight out of engaging with it as a film, and it, and that quite kind of like takes you out of being
memory if memory serves me correct, I think that was actually plucked from Back to the Future, because they were actually going to have Marty McFly in a fridge freezer time traveling, but they thought it would be too dangerous for children to assume that they could time travel using a fridge freezer.
In a fridge,
and that could cause a lot of issues. But they did reuse it in that kind of Indiana Jones thing. So I've heard anyway.
That's
other things I've watched, and just recently, I mean, Doctor Who is one I've always returned back to. Yeah. But Jonathan Creek is one that in the last couple of months is just. I think part of that's because I've forgotten some of the kind of whodunit moments and the so it's been quite a nice thing to return back to go. Oh yeah. So that's good.
Do you know what I quite like? I quite like, if it's this never happens, but if it's a Sunday afternoon and you don't have stuff that you have to be doing, and it's like rainy and cold, not in any way like it is right now, like actually cold, and you want to kind of draw the curtains early, Poirot. Just popping on an episode of Poirot. Right. And even if you know who does it and how, there's just this kind of, something quite comforting about that format.
Yeah. So I think that's all of my. Oh, Sandman and Good Omens have been ones, and again, but then that slips into kind of. Again, I've got books. I'm intending to go back over my old Terry Pratchett ones, but I do find the kind of to be able to. Dare I say, skip into or cheat by watching a motion picture of a book instead. So going postal, The Hogfather, that kind of stuff. I've forgotten the other two that I've got as well. So to be able to watch watch a Terry Pratchett thing, I actually enjoy as well. But again, that's not a regular thing. But maybe once every couple of years I'll go, oh, I just fancy going postal. But going postal, for example, is like 4 hours. So you kind of need to watch it across a couple of evenings and things like that.
It's an investment. I wonder if it's to do with, because I also sometimes end up watching things because of the actors that are in it. So if I've seen something with a particular actor, and that's come to an end, and I love their performances, and I love their way of presenting character. I might then go and rewatch, like if I've seen David Tennant in something, I might then go and rewatch my favourite Doctor Who episodes with him in it, which will then inevitably lead me to Matt Smith and Jodie. But like I might also do that, and I wonder if that's something to do with, like, in that moment, what you really need is a sense of kind of connection, like that sense of, you feel like these characters, because you do, especially if they're based on books that you've read, especially books you read when you were younger, you do know these characters. They're really part of you. So there's that sense of, actually, I just want to spend some time in the presence and being connected with these characters. Like, I wonder if that's it sometimes for me.
As you mentioned, Doctor Who, we are going to have a latest series kind of conversation about Doctor Who in a fortnight, just whilst I remember. But I think you were right in regards to why we do these things, and I think that's helpful us to move on to that kind of element of this conversation, is that part of it is about nostalgia. It is part of like returning back to the familiar, or nostalgia of that time of life when you first watched it. I really found that with Friends. I was really surprised. It kind of put me back to kind of Friday evenings and kind of catching up with my mates and things like that whilst that was on. So there's definitely those sort of feelings. And kind of just that kind of memories of, oh yeah, hello old friend.
There's a sense of when we watch and engage with new things that it like, hopefully if it's good, it'll challenge us, like it'll offer challenge, and that'll be a challenge around whatever subject or world view or whatever's going on. If it's good, if it's truthful, like if it's honest, we're going to be challenged by it. But that's also a challenge around like who we are. Like if it's about something that challenges us to rethink perspective of our own, or like a subconscious bias or those sorts of things. Whereas if we go back to things that we've watched before, because it might have happened the first time, but it won't have happened the 51st time, that'll actually just feel like very, very safe. Like it'll feel really, really safe because we know who we are in that, and we know what's going to happen, and just that sense of it offers like a real security to me, because I know how it starts. I know if somebody dies, I know that's going to happen. Like there's no surprise. It just feels very safe, which is interesting, isn't it?
It's kind of revisiting the narrative, isn't it? As to say, you kind of, because you already know the story, you know how it ends, you know how it goes, then you kind of, there is that security.
Absolutely.
And safety, but it also then means you can kind of pick it up and twist it around metaphorically, that you can kind of, do I mean that figuratively or whatever, that you can chew it over differently to rather than it being the first time, that when you watch the film for a second time, when it's been on the cinema, you go wow, when you get it at home, or when it kind of comes free to watch, because that's what I do, legally obviously, that you can kind of go, oh, I didn't pick up on that, or oh, that's interesting, or and you kind of riff off it a bit more and chew it over. And I think, dare I say, for me, it almost has a bit of a parable vibe of where you kind of know the old stories, the parables in the Bible, that you kind of go, well-trodden path, but because you can revisit it and revisit again, you kind of start to look at it at a different perspective.
Absolutely.
And I think that is also really helpful to help process, help explore themes and things like that, really.
That idea that every cell in our body regenerates once every 7 years. So every single 7 years.
So every for podcast listeners, I did the whole Doctor Who regeneration.
You did the Doctor Who. Every 7 years, every single cell of our body is different to 7 years ago. So technically, we're an entirely new person every 7 years, which we're not. Obviously, we're the same person. But go with me. It's a bit of a stretch. But the idea of like every so often we have like our bodies are amazing, aren't they? We've regenerated to the point where we are approaching things with a newness. And I go through that experience too, that there'll be books that I know really, really well because I've like Lord of the Rings, like I've read that so many times. And then I'll go have this experience where it feels fresh because who I am is so different to the person I was when I last read it, and the person I was when I last saw something. There's a sense that until I've seen something, through this freshness that I now have, actually I can't appreciate, because the thing hasn't changed. Like the parable, like scripture doesn't change, the films don't change, they stay the same. But because we've changed our perspective and our understanding of them, we can't actually understand the truth that they have for us now until we've experienced it again. And that's special, isn't it? That sense of, that's why we often go back to the same stuff.
I think a very easy one for me is becoming a parent and then watching films with parents in them.
Gosh, exactly.
And they're kind of going, I'm actually on the side of the parent this time.
Absolutely.
I completely get this. Why on earth would you do this?
And there are some classics like Ferris Bueller's Day Off, where I remember watching that for the first time and thinking, "Yep, that's what I'm going to be. I'm going to be this rebellious teenager that like has this perfect day." And that sense of like chasing that as a vibe throughout your teenage and your early 20s. And now I'm like, well, he's an idiot, isn't he? He's just an absolute idiot. What on earth is he doing? He's not cool. That's not cool.
but I think it is, isn't it? It's just the way that kind of our life experiences then kind of allows us to see it through a different lens.
Yeah.
And therefore, even if it is a well-trodden path, and again, films, books, Bible passages, all of it allows you to kind of return back to something and you kind of go, or, okay. And it's that kind of sudden,
I never saw that before,
revelation of watching something that, again, is so familiar. And you're going, of course I know this inside out. And then you kind of watch it that umpteenth time and suddenly go, oh my gosh, I did not know that.
Yeah. I've done that a lot with The Chosen, because they base a lot of what they do on scripture. So they'll like a character will say or do something, and I'm like, that it does not say that in the Bible. That is completely wrong. It doesn't say that. So then I go and read it, and I'm like, oh, it does. That is actually what it says. I've just never actually spotted that before. So that sense of being able to see things through new eyes. Yeah, absolutely. Ed said something really interesting the other day. We were talking about scripture, and he said his question was, why is Jesus so ambiguous sometimes? Like, why is he not just very clear and hard lines? So we were talking about why that might be. And one of the things that we sort of strayed upon was the concept that if I'm reading scripture in my context, and also somebody is reading the same scripture from around the world in a very different context, and yet we're both finding truth and meaning in that it needs to have this level of ambiguity. But I think the same stands for me reading it when I was first reading it, when I was, a young teenager, to me reading it now, because what I needed back then is entirely different to what I need now. So that sense of actually a level of ambiguity, which means that the truth needs to be dug into. Like, we need to dig into the ground of it in order to find what the truth is. Like, the truth doesn't change, but the part of it that we need right now absolutely changes, and that's why we just keep coming back over and over and over.
Not to go down like a sermon route, but I remember preaching on kind of John 1 about the word becoming flesh. And the takeaway for me is of how we need to translate Jesus into our modern day lives.
Yeah,
and
I love it.
That for me has always rang around to kind of go, you know what, it may have been relevant then, it may have been relevant 2,000 years ago, but actually it's up to us to bring it to life again now for us here. And it does read differently. And even in 40 years or 35 years since I first read a passage to now, I kind of look back and go, gosh, my viewpoint has changed, or
entirely.
Gosh, this is different because of what is going on in the world.
Absolutely.
And so I can definitely see of how, isn't it amazing how one thing can continue to change and be different. And
I love that.
Yeah. And yet it can also be familiar as well.
Absolutely. And really that's because what we're saying with that, instead of kind of rewatching, we're talking about reincarnating, aren't we? And that's what incarnation, like in flesh, right? Like that sense of and that's what we do with our stories, with our narratives, both, scripture, but also the movies and the books that we love so dearly. Each time we rewatch them, actually what we're doing is we're reincarnating ourselves within the truth that we find there, and how important it is to keep on, not just because we change, but also because we forget. And because things change around us, but we do forget. I forget so easily. So to come back to it and reincarnate myself in it and have it be reincarnated in me, massively. I love that. It's awesome.
I'm aware of time, but I'm also, there is something here, isn't there, about the way that actually in in church settings, we have devotions, we have liturgies that are very familiar, and whether liturgy is very broad it's not just the black and white text, it's the kind of the way of which the recipe of we do worship, of
the shape of the common life, isn't it? It's like the shape of the corporateness of it.
So that you would start off with an introit, and then you do a prayer, and then you have or it could be your own pattern of devotion. Actually, there is something about the rhythm and pattern of life that we like to revisit and do a very similar thing, even though the ingredients might change. The recipe often, and we sometimes do mix it up a bit, but we are quite animals of habit, and therefore even our viewing, our reading can actually be quite habitual, but also devotional, a little bit of a slippery slope towards our fandoms and hobbies and interests, but there can also be an opportunity. I mean, I still will put my hand up to there was a Terry Pratchett book that I was reading alongside the Bible, and I was taking it in chunks because I was feeling guilty, and then I found that God was speaking to me through Terry Pratchett book.
And
I was like, but again, I felt guilty for it. But then I was like, wow, but that does make sense of what I've just been reading in the Bible.
Absolutely.
And so it was an opportunity to explore something, and it just felt amazing, really. Anyway,
and we can long for like freshness, can't we? We can long for something that's new, but then when you think about it, like if we get old and then unfortunately develop something like a neurological thing like dementia, the things that we are able to access ourselves and our identities through are the songs that we've listened to over and over and over again. Like we've seen those videos, haven't we, of people with dementia like coming back into themselves. But it's also, and like I've experienced this, I don't know if you have, but that's also maybe prayers or the liturgies that we've said over and over and over and over again. Actually, that they help us re-inhabit ourselves when our minds are losing a sense of identity. So there is something that is really crucial in that, actually, that like redoing things over and over shapes who we are to the point where actually it anchors us in our identity that can't be lost, even when we've got something awful like dementia. That can't be lost.
I don't want to make fun of that because that's really poignant, but at the same time they're going to go, but won't it be interesting in like 20, 30, 40 years?
Oh my gosh.
Where you kind of return back to, and people in nursing homes, they're like, who let their dogs out? Right. Kind of coming back to really obscure music just to kind of re-tap into themselves.
In order to reach us, they're going to have to like shout at us, the Venga Boys are coming, aren't they? Like they're going to have to, and we'll, respond in kind.
Glastonbury, we should have mentioned Glastonbury this weekend. Yeah. They had assembly bangers where people were more than happy to be singing old Sunday school,
absolutely,
school assemblies.
Absolutely.
So,
and that's the other thing about repetition, is that it is absolutely fundamental for a sense of community and belonging. That if we want to be, and this goes back to like prehistoric cave people days, doesn't it? If we want to be a team, we share language, but we also share narrative. We share, we paint our stories on the walls and then we write them in books. Like we have to have this shared thing together that is repeated and passed on from generation to generation. That is also what community is built around, isn't it? The repetition of story.
I'm aware of time, but we're going to jump into Geeky Gallery for a couple of minutes because we've got a few slides, and then we're going to call it a day because we're running 2 minutes over at the moment. First of all, we've got Note Just talking about his trains, and pictured is the SDJR 060, and that's number 24. A Ginty pulling lightweight mixed freight. So that is the little kind of darker blue one, I believe. And then blurred one is the 37057 Viking.
Nice.
In EWS livery, which I think is the painting scheme of it. I think.
No, EWS livery. It's the company. It's the company.
Oh, cool.
As in, like in real life.
Oh, okay, cool.
Yeah.
Thank you.
I might be wrong.
Your bit is you've added about learning Spanish, I believe, on Duolingo. Is it?
Sí.
Estoy
Sí.
aprendiendo español.
Sí.
I have been learning Spanish,
I am
is it?
learning Spanish. Yeah.
I am learning.
Yeah. Estoy. I am.
Very good.
Slowly.
So that's very cool.
Very slowly.
Couple of bits from me. You lifted up your sock at the beginning of the episode. Here's my picture of the ogre shaman that I was painting last week. So that is the guy finished, and so that is good. But I've also been reading more Terry Pratchett. I do exist more than beyond Terry Pratchett, but in this is in relation to reading The Amazing Morris and His Educated Rodents to my children.
Nice.
And they're really getting into this. And Ruben's like, can we have a bit more of this? Can we have a bit more of this? And they're going, yes, Morris. So that's very good.
This is the way.
Finally, Tim is mentioning about Magic the Gathering, I do believe. While I wait for the... Sorry, that sounded as if I was being mocking. I didn't mean to. He'd been waiting for his MOT this morning, started playing Final Fantasy IV on the Switch, and stumbled into a local game store, got some Final Fantasy Magic the Gathering cards.
Do you think one of those is the Soul card?
No idea.
No,
I'll have to have a look at the pictures close up, which you can do on the Discord. Remember to like, follow, subscribe, etc. And finally, Tim has put a mystery box from Bird and Blend. He's put B&B, and in my head I was like, huh? But Bird and Blend now with the mindfulness journal based around tea. So that's pretty
Love
cool
it.
as well.
Very cool.
So again, do find us on the Discord to have conversations inside, outside of the show, of the podcast. Share your stuff on Geeky Gallery so we can have a bit of a nosy and a bit of a natter about it. And also, obviously, there are still plenty of time to have conversations in that space when we're not live and all that kind of stuff, and a sense of community.
See you there.
So is there anything left to say, Jen, before we call it?
Do you know where my quote is from? Which bear is best?
No, I didn't. I didn't know if it was like the bear kind of Disney. Or not.
It's from The American Office, and Tim says it to Dwight. Do I mean Tim? Is his name actually Tim? Pam and Jim. Jim says it to Dwight. Don't know who Tim is. Whilst he is dressed up as Dwight and mocking him.
Very good.
So yeah, it's niche.
Very good. Well, folks, if you are watching us for the first time or you've returned to rewatch us another time, it has been a pleasure, and we'll see you again next week. Bye-bye.